After the Battle of Endor, the Empire broke up into several Warlord splinter factions. While Warlord Zinj may be the most famous individually, and in some respects was likely the most powerful for quite some time, today we're going to be looking at the splinter faction which I consider to be the most successful, the Pentastar Alignment. Before getting into my argument for why I think they're the most successful, let's get some quick background information. The Pentastar Alignment was formed soon after the Battle of Endor by Grand Moff Ardus Kane, who had been Grand Moff of the Oversector Outer, an area which covered basically the entire Outer Rim, and which Kane ruled from the Executor-class Super Star Destroyer Reaper. Kane's initial recruiting attempts for his new empire stretched across all of his old holdings, including reaching out to the Imperial war hero Air Marshal Shea Hublin, who declined in favor of staying with the former capital of the Oversector, Eridu, which was now under the control of Sandor Delvardis' Eridu Authority. Kane instead concentrated his new forces on the new capital of Intrala, in the northwestern bits of the galaxy known as the New Territories. To shore up his control, he reached out to major local star system governments and corporations of the Velkar Free Commerce Zone, in what were known as the Pentastar Talks. Kane and the Pentastar Declaration that resulted from the talks essentially described the alignment as an emergency measure, where the powers would cooperate for the extent of the emergency under the banner of the Pentastar Alignment. Kane would also insist on Pentastar Alignment ships displaying the emblem of the Pentastar Alignment in order to help with recognition. However, some of the members, especially Governor Ibn found this particular arrangement highly distasteful. The alignment, as a result of its cooperation with the Velkar Free Commerce Zone, was also one of the more ideologically devoted groups of the Imperial splinter factions to humanocentrism, or anti-alien discrimination, based on the concerns of the corporate leaders like Elta Besk and Gregor Akorin, who were afraid that success by the New Republic would stop their slaving operations with aliens, or that other ventures like Besk's Amber Sun Industries gas mines would, quote, fall back into alien hands. As the former Imperial war machine was now more directly tied to these corporations than ever, aliens who otherwise may have been peacefully coexisting before tended to get swept aside by the new regime. The structure of the Pentastar Alignment was based on two major branches that had some sub-branches, the two major branches being Order and Enforcement. Order was essentially the branch responsible for propaganda, like the Old Commission for the Preservation of the New Order or Compnor, and other new branches like the Politerate, Insurrection, Judgment, and Protectorate branches fell under the overall branch of Order. The Politerate, or Pols, were officers that ensured alignment policy was followed within the other branches of the alignment, with Pol officers stationed on all ships and within all crews, exercising complete control over all command posts. Insurrection was responsible for surveillance throughout the alignment, spreading disinformation about the New Republic to prevent defections, whether this would mean news of military defeats by the New Republic that hadn't actually happened, or spreading news of discord within New Republic ranks. The Judgment branch, led by the Great Inquestors of Judgment, fearsome individuals with imposing Protectorate soldiers as bodyguards, would use interdictors to cut off access and escape from entire planets while they conducted investigations which were described as being like witch hunts. The Protectorate, the final branch into which the Protectorate squads we just mentioned belonged, was essentially responsible for the protection of and elimination of threats to the other alignment leadership. The second major branch, the Enforcement branch, was essentially the state police, and its sub-offices were used as a way to assuage military concerns that the military would continue to be used for police duties like they often were under the Empire. The most recognizable part of the Enforcement branch, which handled all alignment-wide and local law enforcement issues, was the Pentastar Patrol. Pentastar Patrol enforcers were often used to free up Army and Navy trooper garrisons to fight on the front lines, rather than having to control local populations. It would also include ships like the Enforcer-class picket ship, developed by the Pentastar Alignment and based on the Vindicator cruiser and Immobilizer 418 hull. The real question, though, was why I'm calling them the most successful, even if they were not necessarily the most powerful at all points. While their repressive nature would likely not have helped them in the longer term, in the short term, that, along with their distance from major rebel bases, which tended to be in the southern parts of the galaxy, meant the Pentastar Alignment was not an overly obvious target for the New Republic. Unlike several other Imperial groups, they also tended to sit back and wait out several other conflicts between the New Republic and the other splinter states of the Empire, rather than aggressively pursuing them, which made others like Warlord Zinj or Sandor Delvardis bigger immediate threats. Kane also tended to not get as involved with the other Imperial leaders as much. Where many of the splinter factions often professed loyalty to the Imperial core, especially under Sate Pestage and Isard when they controlled Coruscant, Kane followed no such pretense. He did cooperate with Thrawn to some extent by providing some limited materials to Thrawn's campaign, But it was not until the events of Dark Empire, with Emperor Palpatine's return and Operation Shadowhand from 10 to 11 ABY, or years after the Battle of Yavin, that Kane became heavily involved with galactic affairs. While Palpatine's massive armada struck out from the core, Kane and his flagship, Reaper, headed towards the core from the New Territories. The New Republic suffered defeat after defeat from both Kane and the Emperor's forces, and the New Republic was left reeling. However, after a hard-fought campaign with several superweapons being destroyed and some guy named Luke Skywalker having a brush with the dark side, Palpatine and Kane's forces were ultimately defeated. In 10 ABY, Kane himself had been betrayed by a former ally, Grand Admiral Octavian Grant, who had sold him out to the New Republic. The New Republic used E-Wing starfighters and killed Kane in an ambush over Polani in his personal shuttle. This is where we get to the key difference between the Alignment and other Imperial Warlord factions. Where all other Warlord groups, including the confederations assembled by Thrawn and Palpatine himself, were once again reduced to infighting after their death, taken over by the New Republic, or were simply absorbed, as happened with Zinj, Delvardis, and countless others, Kane's Pentastar Alignment continued to exist without the leadership of Kane. They maintained control over most of their territory for 2 more years until 12 ABY, when Gilad Pellaeon, as the military leader of a newly reunited empire, annexed them back into the Imperial fold. Sartananian, also known as Bastion, became the new Imperial capital though, and that had been within the Alignment's territory. The core of Imperial territory for the next several decades, from 12 ABY through their inclusion in the Galactic Alliance and subsequent independence, was basically the core territory of the Pentastar Alignment. It's hard to find a warlord group with more of an impact or sustainability, and that's why I call them the most successful warlord group. That's going to do it for this video though. As always, if you have any suggestions for future videos, questions, or other feedback, please leave it in the comments. If you've enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, turning on notifications, subscribing, or even sharing the video on social media somewhere. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.